lights on? Lights on. All right, here we go. Today we are talking about what is in this box. And so many of you guys guessed it accurately, which I was super impressed, but the DJI Action 2. I know I'm late to reviewing the Action 2, but it's because I thought they were sending me one, and then I found out they weren't sending me one, so then I had to go buy one and I had to wait for it to get here. But now it's here, and now I can talk about the Action 2 also. And today's gonna be kind of a first look for me. I've gotten it out of the box, I've gotten it charged up, it is ready to rock, but I haven't shot with it yet. So you and I are gonna go through this together. But today's video, it's super important for anyone that's looking to buy the Action 2, because there's like 5 or 6 things that I already know about this camera that you should know also before you go buy it. Things that just kind of make me go, and you should know about that before you spend this much money on an action camera. Before we hop into it though, hit that like button. That is super helpful for me. If you watch this video and you're like, hey, that was a really helpful video for me, you can help me by hitting that like button. Maybe think about subscribing. If you want to see this camera versus like a slew of other cameras that are back there on the shelf, I will be comparing this camera against those cameras very soon. All right, first up, form factor. This thing is it is built so dang well. I'm almost positive it's aluminum. I think it's an aluminum casing. The entire thing is an aluminum casing, has a 1.7 inch touchscreen on the back, a big old lens cover on the front with an f2.8 and 155 degree field of view. One button on top right there turns the thing on. But this little camera here, this is the actual unit. This is the whole unit right here, or it can be. This is an action camera all by itself. 56 grams total. I think it's 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, and then it's less than an inch deep. So this camera by itself, very, very small. I do like that it stands up by itself also because it's a little cube. Now you'll notice that just with that button on top, there's no SD card slot on this thing. It has built-in memory and it has a built-in battery. Now the built-in battery they claim on the website gets up to 70 minutes of record time, but that's in 1080p. So we need to find out how long does it get in 4K, because I will pretty much only be shooting this in 4K unless I want to shoot at higher frame rate, in which case I'll have to drop down to 2.7K or 1080. 1080 actually, because it does 2.7K and 4K at the same frame rate. And then the built-in memory is a 32 gigabyte built-in memory, which I'm super bummed about because 10 gigabytes of that is used up by the operating system. So really inside of here, we have 22 usable gigabytes of memory, which to be honest, isn't a lot. I will definitely be comparing this camera at some point versus the Go 2 from Insta360. And one of my big kind of pain points on the Go 2 is the 32 gigabytes of built-in memory. And on that thing, only 4 gigabytes are taken up by the operating system. So you have 28 usable gigs on that thing and only 22 on this thing. And I just feel like with everything else they did on this camera, they could have given us 64 or 1. If they gave us 64 or 128, this would be a significantly better camera. Okay, but we do know that this is not the entire camera because they have these mods. So this right here is the touchscreen mod. This is comes with the touchscreen combo. These guys click together magnetically, kind of magnetically actually. They don't really click so they pull together magnetically, but they lock together because of these little tabs on the side. See that little tab there? You gotta press these 2 tabs in, and that's how you get the camera apart. Now, the thing is, if one of those tabs gets pressed in, it can still come apart. So it's not being held together magnetically, it's being pulled together magnetically, or the magnets line it up, and then those tabs are really what holds it in place. When those tabs are locked in place, I mean, this thing is not going anywhere. It is super, super locked on there. But again, if only one of those tabs is pressed, this thing can be pushed apart very, very easily. Potentially an issue in the future, because again, that's kind of the only way to mount it at this point, but I'll show you that when we get to the accessories. This little screen mod, it adds up to 90 minutes of battery life to the camera. So when this guy's by itself, 70 minutes, again in 1080, so we'll see what the real time is. And then when we click these together, now up to 160 minutes of battery life between the two. So it adds battery life, but the screen mod also adds a USB-C charging port and an SD card slot in there. And when these two are clicked together. Obviously, the screen mod adds a front screen, which is super nice. The rear screen and front screen can now stay on at the same time. So now when I'm out filming with this thing, I have a front screen that is totally touch and a rear screen, and they're the same size touch screen and front screen. Obviously much smaller than the first generation Osmo Action, but they're both there. And then the last thing that this mod adds is more microphones. So this little guy by itself, if you're running around just with this as your action camera, you have one tiny little microphone on the side of the camera. And then with this thing, we add in 3 more microphones, which is super helpful because 4 microphones is gonna give us much better audio than just one on the side. So that's the screen mod. And then there's also the battery mods, which is pretty much this exact same thing, but without the screen, and you get a little bit more battery life. I think you get 20 minutes more on the battery mod than you do on the screen mod, which makes sense because again, you have another touchscreen on there. Price wise, this setup right here with the screen mod is $519, which, whoo, these action cameras are not messing around anymore. They are pricey. Now the battery mod, if you switch out this mod for the battery mod, and that's the combo that you get, I think you drop down to $399. So it's an extra $120 to get this screen, which brings me to my list of things that you need to know before you purchase the DJI Action 2 camera. And the very first one is that on this main unit, the screen cover, not replaceable. So right now, if I take this thing out there and I do action sports, what it's kind of supposed to be designed for, and like a rock kicks up and goes pew and hits the screen, or maybe like I fall and this thing goes tumbling and it hits the ground, I scratch that lens, I now have to send this camera back to DJI to get repaired. I don't have the ability to just swap out the screen cover, which is crazy because on the Osmo Action 1, that was one of the things that I was most excited about on this thing, was the circular one. That's amazing. Circular lens cover. I had like 4 of these things and I went through a couple of them because I scratched up the others. And I think when this thing came out, it was competing against the Hero 8, which is when GoPro took off that removable lens cover, and we all lost our minds. We all went, how stupid, how dumb to not be able to use or replace the piece of glass that's on my action camera that covers my lens. Okay, the second thing that you have to know about this camera before you go and purchase it is that this piece, the main unit, waterproof. Go snorkel, go swim, go do whatever you want to do with this piece. Totally waterproof. The mods, not waterproof. So when your camera is in this setup right here, your camera is not waterproof. And not only is it not waterproof, like the USB-C port totally open. The SD card slot open. There's not even like a cover over it. So I would even be concerned if I was out with this and it started raining. I'm not exactly sure, even like splashing, things like that. I'm not sure how this would handle that. And the USB-C slot being open like that, I imagine not very waterproof. Which is another one of those things that before even shooting this camera, I just look at on paper and I kind of go, oh, what? They do make a dive housing for this. So if you put these together, you want to actually use this camera in something like surfing or something like action sports and water. There's a dive housing you put this thing into, but then you obviously lose all audio, which just seems crazy when this is going to be competing against even its old self, which obviously this, totally waterproof, replaceable SD card, replaceable battery, front screen, large rear screen, totally waterproof, just how it is. But this guy, not waterproof, unless you're in its little broken down mode, and that's all you have. But then you have limited battery life and limited internal storage. I don't know. These are just things, again, that you should know before you make your purchase. Okay, number 3 thing that you have to know about this camera before you buy it is you need a mod to charge the camera. So you can't charge this piece by its own. There's no USB-C port, and there's no like piece that magnets on here and then can charge just this unit. I imagine that's gonna be something that's gonna come out in the future, or somebody will make that third party if DJI doesn't make it. But it would make sense that there would be a piece that could just go and click on here, and then I could just plug this piece in. Because if I wanted to go out and I just wanted this piece, I didn't want to bring the mod with me currently, then you would only have the internal battery storage and then the camera would die. So if you want to charge the camera up, you have to plug these two together, and then you can plug into the USB-C port, and that charges both batteries. Again, not a horrible thing, but something to note. Number 4 on my list, and I think I already mentioned this, is these locking tabs. The locking tabs are what holds it together. They are very, very strong, but you do only need to push one and you can break the camera apart. Okay, then the very last thing to know about this camera before you go buy it is that these are the spare batteries. So if you go out for a full day of shooting, like I would on my Osmo Action, I would take this camera out and I would say, I got a 120 gig card in there, I'm probably good with that, but I'll bring like 3 extra batteries. So 1 in the camera, 3 extras. I would hardly ever go through all 3, but it's nice to have a few extra batteries just in case. Well, now the issue here with this whole modular system is these are the batteries. The mods are the batteries. So this is the main camera unit, but this guy, the screen mod, well, that's an extra battery. So if this thing dies also, and I want to keep this thing running, I have to get another one of these, click it on there, and now I can keep filming. But the problem is, even just the battery mod, if you're just trying to buy the battery mod separate, $75 per battery mod. Because again, the battery mod has an SD card slot and a USB-C port in the battery mod, so yeah, of course it's pretty expensive. The screen mod, if you were like, hey, I wanna go out filming and I'd like to have multiple batteries and I wanna have a front screen all day long, just for the screen mod, $169. Ha! So there's pretty much no situation in which I will have multiple batteries with me and a front screen all day long. Like if I get a spare battery for this, I'll probably get 1 battery mod and that would be it. And then when I'm using the battery mod, I just don't have a front screen. So yeah, that's for sure something to think about before you buy this. If you're like a power user, if you're someone that goes through multiple batteries during a day, it's going to get pricey. Okay, let's go test this thing out. I'll run it through like video stuff, some audio stuff. But again, mainly, I'm gonna be testing this thing out for the next week or so against other cameras on that shelf. So against the Hero 10, against the Osmo Action 1 even. I feel like this test right here, these 2 cameras, is a very compelling video, especially for the price difference. Like this thing versus this thing, price-wise, huge difference. Is there that much of a difference between the 2 cameras? Subscribe for all those, but again, let's go film with this thing a little bit. We'll see how it does. All right, here's a little audio test with just the camera mod. So this is 1 microphone. I've got the screen mod in my hand. How does just 1 microphone deal with wind? Kind of switch it up on the direction of the wind here. The wind is going straight this way. Hit into the side of it both ways. How does the Action 2 handle a little bit of wind noise with just 1 microphone? And now the Action 2 with the screen mod on there. We've now got 4 mics for stereo sound. Going back this way, again, the wind is kind of shooting straight this way and talking while we move through the wind. How do 4 microphones on the Action 2 kind of deal with wind, deal with different sounds better? Does it just overall sound much better? Is it significant or just a little? All right, what did you guys think of the actual footage, of the actual audio from the Action 2? It was a really interesting experience shooting with it because I had all these kind of things that I was bummed about, but then I went and shot with it and it was actually a really good shooting experience. Filming with it, using it out and about, it was really good. Now, I didn't go in the water, so I didn't have to deal with the fact that this piece wasn't waterproof. Again, that super bums me out. I didn't really get too crazy with it, so I didn't worry so much about the screen. I did hold it down by my skateboard wheels a couple times though, and I was super worried that a rock was gonna kick up and just wreck my lens the first day. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think about the Action 2 so far, about the things that I raised, the issues that I raised, the non-removable lens cover, the fact that this piece isn't waterproof, the fact that these are your batteries. So if you want to stock up on batteries for a full day of shooting, you need a bunch of these. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe these aren't big problems for most people. Maybe they're only problems for people that are more like power users of an action camera, and the normal user of this camera can totally get away with it exactly how it is, and it's great. It just feels like they took away a lot of really good features from the Osmo Action 1 and they didn't give them to us on the Action 2. Like, they added features, but they also took away a bunch of really good features from, like the QS button that would cycle through custom presets. DJI was the one that came up with the idea to have custom presets where you could have a bunch of different settings and you could just cycle through them really, really quickly. They took that away on the Action 2. It's not there. There's no custom presets on the Action 2. Lots of different things. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna go keep testing this thing out. I'm gonna go look at more footage. I'll talk to you guys soon. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Hey, I got some traction boards. You want me to throw some traction boards into
I
them?
think I got it, but if I don't in 1 second, I think.
All right, you got it. Yeah, if you can't get it, let me know.
A few minutes later.
All right, give it a little bit. There you go. That guy would have been stuck there all day.